Okay. All right. We are off to the races. Yes, this is my favorite race of the entire series, so very, very excited for it. Um, and we got Ben on the line as well. He's one of the race directors, so he's gonna keep me in line. Anytime I misspeak, he'll jump in there and be like, that's not right. Um, hopefully
It's
I have
probably because we
everything right.
didn't share that right information with you.
There you go. I'd also just like to make up stuff. Um, and then we'll go through kind of the information, and then any questions at all, feel free to raise your hand during, and then we'll have question time at the end. The goal here is to make sure you feel comfortable going into Saturday and have a great race. Um, so a little bit about me. I'm a former professional triathlete. I live in Cumming, Georgia. I have three kids. I took some time off of riding the bike, and I'm just getting back started again. So I will probably be at the last John Tanner race, maybe with my son. I don't know. But I love all the Try the Parks races. I've won the series a couple times. I've won this race once. Um, and so that's why I'm talking through it. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know all the answers. So again, that's why we got Ben. Just a quick survey of people that come to these meetings. Who's on the call with you? And this is from another race, but this is usually generally the same thing. There's a chunk of people that they've done this race before, and they're just checking in. There's a chunk of people that they haven't done this race, but they've done other Try the Parks races, and they're like, hey, I like this. But there is a majority who, hey, this is their first race, or first triathlon, or their first time with Try the Parks. And so if that's you, awesome. You're in the right place. We are a friendly group. We want to build a community. We want to have fun together. So, if you're like, hey, I have a bunch of questions that I'm worried to ask. I might think people, there's no stupid questions. So any questions you have, feel free to answer. You're asking questions that other people have. And we'll cover that throughout. So let's talk about this week, and then we'll jump into the race. So today's Tuesday. Tomorrow, I recommend getting all your gear sorted out. This is the checklist I use, but there's a bunch of checklists online. But get everything laid out. And I like doing it on Wednesday because if I find something that I'm missing or there's a problem with one of my gear, I have a couple days before race day to fix it. So I recommend doing that tomorrow. Thursday, there's an optional packet pickup at Podium Multisport. Um, I think it's usually like 10 till 2 or something, like kind of around lunchtime. Uh, and then there's also an optional packet pickup Friday afternoon at the race location. If you're going to stay the night close by, you can go out there and get it there. But Thursday, packet pickup, that's probably no more hard workouts after that. Friday, get everything packed together and then go to bed early. And then we go to race morning. I pulled the weather. Weather is actually looking pretty good. Um, Race start, it looks about 75 degrees. By race finish, about 84. That gets really toasty. We'll talk a little bit about heat on the run. Um, but I don't think we're going to see rain. It says chance of rain, but I think it's more in the afternoon when we're going to see it. There's a 10% chance of rain. So I don't think, it looks like a good race day, at least for July. It's about as best as good as you can get for Georgia in July. Um, my race morning recommendations are what I would do. I'd wake up really early. I think I usually have to wake up at 3:30 for this race because it's about a 2-hour drive for me. So if you're not staying close by, and there's that whole like, is it better to stay close by and get another hour of sleep or drive more? I don't know. But at least for me, it's a couple hours. So wake up early, make sure you're awake while you're driving. We're a 7:30 start time, so I would try to get there really no later than 6 if possible to give yourself plenty of time. It's less sleep, but also you hate to roll in at like 6:30 and be all frazzled and running around. So 5:30 to 6 would be my recommendation. There's lots of parking options. There's some down by the finish line, but there's a lot more about a fourth mile walk up the hill. So plenty of parking. There's porta potties. There's a park bathroom. If you've picked up your packet beforehand, you'll still need your race bib, like your number. to go show to get your timing chip. If you haven't picked it up, that's totally fine. Race pickup, packet pickup on race day is pretty fast, like under a minute usually. It maybe under 3 minutes, right? It just takes a minute. So you can pick up your packet race morning, get your timing chip, all that. What to wear? If you have a tri-suit, that's ideal. You could do a swimsuit or whatever. I wouldn't recommend jeans because that just sounds awful to swim and run in. So when I get there, I like to go hit the porta potty, pick up my timing chip, set up transition. We'll talk about that in a second. Get all my race kit good to go. Maybe hit the bathroom again, then just kind of hang out, and then maybe start to do a warm-up swim around 7 o'clock. Just kind of get warmed up. There's a little area where you can kind of swim a little bit. And then we line up, and then 7:30 is a start.
Make sure
Yes.
for packet pickup that you have a photo ID with you. That's always a contention if you have to walk all the way back to your car. So
Yes, yeah, that gets lame, especially if you're parked a fourth mile away. So yeah, ID, good call. I need to put that on there. Transition, there will be racks with numbers based on your bib number. And so pretend I'm bib number 3. I'll go to the rack that says 1 through 6, and I can put my bike anywhere on the 1 through 6. Typically, people will line up their bikes on either side, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But just as long as I'm on that rack, we'll be good. There's usually decent, like there's room for everyone, but also you don't have like a ton of real estate. So this is a picture of my setup with the bike next to me. I'll have like a little mat or a towel, and then I'll have my shoes and helmet, and like, I'll just has to stay there. I do have like a bag and like some other stuff that can't stay in transition. I take that and go put it on the outside of transition or give it to a friend or my wife or whatever. So get everything set up in transition. And then we go to just before it starts. So transitional close around 7, I think maybe 7:15. Really, you should be done about 7. Head down to the water. They'll have the race briefing where they'll kind of talk through what we're talking about tonight and also what's in your packet. And then the referee will come on and talk. They'll do a national anthem. They'll have a pre-race prayer, and then they will say, "Hey, we'll start in 3 minutes" or whatever. And everyone will be lined up, and then they'll go, and the first person will go off, and then 5 seconds later, the next person will go off, and then 5 seconds later, the next person will go off, and it's just a rolling start every 5 seconds. With theoretically, it's the fastest swimmers first and the slower swimmers in the back, just because then you don't run into each other as much in the swim. It takes, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes to get everyone in the water. And we'll talk about the swim in a minute, but this one's a little different in that there's 2 loops of the swim for the Olympic. So you will have traffic you have to swim through. But it's definitely manageable. And then race starts at 6 or 7:30, which is just an important call out because I think other races it starts at 8, but because this is an Olympic and it's longer, we want to get started earlier. So before I go into the swim, first, Ben, do you have anything? And then we'll just pause for any questions on up until the start gun goes off.
yeah, just the only thing I would just make sure we're clear on is with 2 events going on, one of those is a 1-lap race and one of those is a 2-lap race. So if you're in the sprint, that's a 1-lap, 750 meters, unlike our other races, which are only 600. And if you're in the Olympic or intermediate distance, then you'll be at 1,500 meters, and that's 2 750 laps. You do not have to get out of the water there, but
Yeah. I mean, you could swim 2 laps, but your
yeah,
time's going to be really slow.
yep,
All right, so yeah, let's jump into the swim. Unlikely to be wetsuit legal. It's been pretty toasty. I was swimming in the lake the other day, and the water felt like a hot tub. It was toasty. So this won't be that bad, I don't think, but it'll unlikely to be wetsuit legal. If you have a swim skin, this is probably a good time to use it. If you don't have one, I wouldn't rush out and buy one. It's not going to save you that much time. Rolling start, and then yeah, Olympic, it's 2 laps. And you can kind of see on the map over here. Let me get my fancy little laser pointer. So you start here, you swim out, and there's a big tomato buoy, which looks like this, which is bad picture, but that's all I had. It's like just a big round red tomato buoy. You'll totally know what it is. So you swim out and left turn on that. There'll be other small triangle buoys that look like this thing right here. And you keep all the buoys on your left. So tomato, sighting buoy, sighting buoy. There'll be a tomato out here, another big left turn, sighting buoy. And then if you're doing the sprint, you just head in. If you're doing the Olympic, you turn at another tomato,
There's a yellow, it's a smaller yellow tomato there.
smaller yellow tomato. Not
Yeah,
a
just
fried
to,
green tomato. It's a
not a
yellow
fried
tomato.
green tomato, no.
Okay.
Smaller yellow one, just to indicate that that's where the turn occurs. And you do have to go around it. We've had people who swim inside of that.
There you go. That's my excuse for why I don't win on the swim. They were cutting the course. Um, so yeah, and then you just swim the same thing. And for those that are doing the Olympic, like when you do your second lap, there will be other people on their first lap or just doing their sprint. And so just be aware of that. It shouldn't be a surprise, and you'll just swim through them. It doesn't get that crowded. It's not like, you know, an Ironman race where there's 1,000 people or anything, but you know, something to be aware of. So clockwise at the tomatoes and keep all the buoys on the left. And then you come in and you kind of run up a hill to transition. So uh, these are some pictures from it. They'll have people in canoes and stuff uh, for support. This is the beach area where you can kind of, these are people warming up on the swim over here. And then I think this is someone like actually starting the race. And then afterwards, you're kind of running up this hill to transition. That takes you to transition one. I recommend taking off your cap and goggles as you run, but you know, whatever, get your swim skin off. I have so many friends that forget to take off their swim skins. It's hilarious. I was running with someone this morning that they just did a 70.3 and they did the entire thing, including the run, with their swim skin on. And I'm like, come on, man, you can take it off at some point. Important rule is, and this is a relatively new rule for USA Triathlon, just for safety reasons, before you take your bike off of the rack, you need to have your helmet on and your helmet snapped together. Once your helmet is on and snapped, you can then take off your bike, and then, you know, get your bike shoes on before or after that, and then kind of walk your bike or hustle your bike to the mountain line, and get on your bike at the mountain line. It looks like this. It'll say mount here and have a white line. It'll look just like this. And so you have to cross that line. Then you can get on your bike. You go ride the bike. And then when you come back in, you have to get off the bike before that line. On the back of the sign, it says dismount here. So, and there'll be people yelling, and we'll talk about the bike in a minute, but that's T1. And I know there's duathlon and aquabike. We'll touch on that a little bit at the end, but we'll just cover this real quick. So bike, then you're off on the bike. It is a very, let's see, it's 40K-ish, so about 24, 25 miles. And it is got some sweet Georgia hills. This is the elevation over here. If you go on the Try the Parks website, there's an actual elevation chart. This is just what I pulled off of Garmin. And
By
so
actual, you mean it's generated by Strava and
well, yeah,
may or may
yeah,
not
exactly.
be accurate.
There you go. So I'll go over to Try Parks, get the actual elevation pile. But there's the what I'd say is coming out right away, you're kind of doing some uphill, and then you have a bunch of like just rolling hills downhill, and you'll be up. When you're on this backside here, there is a lot of like, there's some decent hills where, you know, I'm usually out of the saddle kind of climbing and then really fast down and back up again. So rolling hills, there's no like mountains or anything, but there's, you know, it's a serious bike. And you know, anywhere from hour 15, hour 20 to 2.5, 3 hours, depending on your speed. There's no aid stations on the bike. So be self-sufficient. Let's see what other notes I have. So coming out of T1, your heart rate's going to be really, really high, especially because it's uphill. There's some good climbs. There will be minimal traffic because it's rural Georgia on a Saturday morning, but the roads are not fully closed, so there can be an occasional car. It rare, I've seen a car, it hasn't been a big deal. They know there's signs all over that there's a race taking place. But just, there are rules of the road, stay on the right side, don't cross into the other lane for safety issues, all that stuff. So it's not fully closed, but there's also very few cars. So it's never been a factor except for, hey, we got to be safe. I'd recommend at least going through a water bottle or two, maybe a gel or two, but so bring fuel with you. No drafting, 6 bike lengths or 12 meters between you and the bike in front, and you have 15 seconds to pass. No headphones. And then when you're coming back into the park, you'll like enter into Richard B. Russell Park and you're like, oh, awesome, I'm done with the bike. But if you remember when you drove in that morning, you actually have like a over a mile still to go within the park. And that always gets me. So just be aware of that. And then at the end of the bike, it is a downhill into the like transition and into the dismount line. So the last little part, there will be people yelling like, hey, slow down. You'll definitely want to ride your brakes and be slow and stop. I'd say if there's a dangerous part of this race, it is that going downhill, having to stop and being aware of people and all that stuff. So that is probably the part I would call out. Yeah, and these are just some other rules we talked about. There's some pictures of the race going out. So this is people leaving. Over here with all these cones, that's part of the run course. That won't only matter until you're on the run. And then here's folks coming back in. They're about to go down the hill. This guy is being super speedy and taking off his shoes, ready to run. But like it'll be awesome because you're coming downhill for that mile. You're flying. You're super amped up because you passed everyone. And then it's a downhill that you just have to really stop. So just be careful there. Hopefully I didn't scare anyone. It's not that bad, but it's that part. Then we get to T2. So dismount before that line, walk your bike back to the rack, get it hooked up on the rack. Only once your bike is back on the rack are you then allowed to take off your helmet, switch shoes if you're wearing bike shoes and want to get run shoes. Some people just have run shoes, that's fine. But if you need to switch shoes, you do it there, and then put on your number for your bib, your race number bib. And if you're relay, you hand off the timing chip, and then you run out the run out part, which is clearly marked. I will say
That's
real
also
quick,
that's the same way you came in from the swim.
same way you came from the swim. So
And
yeah,
for the
it's on
bike, just so we're
side.
clear on that too, everyone does the same bike, whether you're sprint or intermediate. That's why we call it a Sprint XL.
There you go. Yeah, it's basically like you don't have to swim one lap and you don't have to run one lap, but you do the same bike. So you get your money's worth on this race. It's great.
That's right.
All right. So then just for first timers, this is something I recommend or would consider with a lot of people don't have these just laying around. And this is kind of a elastic belt you snap on with your race number. You can pin it to your shirt, but you don't want to have it on during the swim, so you have to do it before the run. You don't need it on the bike. You shouldn't have it on the swim. You do want to put it on for the run. And so to save time, a lot of people will just get these. I think you can find them on Amazon for like $5-10. There's nothing special about any of them, just whatever works. But that's just a lot of new a lot of people that's their first race. This is new to them. And then we get to the run. And this run is a lot of fun and it can get very, very hot. So you leave transition, you run up like a half mile or a quarter mile through the woods. There's kind of like this path through the woods. And then you turn right onto a road that eventually goes to a golf course, and it's a great flat road. There's not a lot of hills. There's a couple, but they're not that bad. So there's not a lot of hills on this compared to other races. There's a lot fewer hills, but there's trees, but you kind of are exposed to the sun. So it'll get into the 80s. You don't have a lot of shade. It can get pretty toasty. So if I've ever had to walk during one of the Try the Parks races, it's been when I've like overheated on this run. It's not going to be that, it shouldn't be that horrible, but heat is going to be a factor. So you run down here. There's a water station every mile, mile and a half, which is great. I'll throw it on my face and drink one. You run down, and then there's a turnaround. You come back. You don't go back through the woods. You keep going. You turn left and run down bike course right here. You run like kind of on the left of that road. And then you come in, and then if you're running the sprint, you come into the finish line. If you're not, if you're doing the Olympic, you run by transition and then go do the whole thing again. And that coming down that last quarter mile to the finish is my favorite part of the entire race because it's a downhill run. You see the finish, or you see where the finish area is, and you just feel like you're Usain Bolt running downhill faster than you have any right to. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, heat is often the biggest enemy for folks this day. So just be aware of that. Plan accordingly. Hydrate, all that stuff. Even if you're on the bike, if you feel great, like I don't need to hydrate on the bike. You actually probably do to set you up for a good run. We don't want any heat stroke. I don't think there's any issues with that usually, but I see a lot of people walking just because they get really hot. Here's some pictures of the run. So this is that road right here, this road to the golf course and back. So like, it's got a little shade, but it's not a lot of protected. And then you come down here. I don't know, these pictures look like it's pretty shady. Shady in a good way.
Hill approach is shady, I will say that, but
Okay.
you're right. And that's probably right after the wooded trail, the picture on the left there. So
Yeah.
the back half when you get up by the golf course is definitely exposed.
Yeah. And then this is the finish line. And then you run up here is where you run into the, like, kind of behind all these people. That's where you run up into the woods. And then post race, there'll be some snacks, awards. They try to do it around 11 to noon, depending on when most people's finish. So meet people, have fun, celebrate. Once everyone's in from the bike, you can start moving your stuff out of transition. And then there'll be photos uploaded, usually within 24 hours. They'll email the links and information and tag Try the Parks on Instagram. So let's see. The duathlon, you're gonna do Ben on the duathlon. You do one lap, but do you run it backwards or you just do?
No, this one we run the same direction because it gets in the way of the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
No, because it's mostly out and back. I take that back. You do go up the road, then down through the golf course, and then come back down the trail. That helps us get the flow of swim right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wasn't thinking about that.
So duathlon, you do one lap running, you do the bike, and then you do 1 or 2 laps running, depending on whether you're doing the Olympic or the sprint duathlon.
Mm-hmm.
Aquabike, you do, and the duathlon start is going to be close to transition. It says do start, like DU start.
We put it right there on this one. We put it at the dismount line, basically.
Okay, so that'll be easy to find. Aquabike, you do the swim, you do the bike, and then once you're done with the bike, you kind of just walk around, transition to the finish line for the aquabike.
You come out with the runners, and then we'll have a sign. Instead of entering the trail, you run actually behind the parking lot on the grass, and then loop around into the finish line just so we can get your finish time.
Yeah, it's 50 yards of running max. It's not.
Most people keep their bike shoes and helmet and everything else on. That's usually how we identify you. But we also give you a green band in case you've already taken your helmet off and you biked in running shoes.
Nice.
So
awesome. Awesome. And then you celebrate and, get some awards, get some hardware. So this is opportunity to ask any questions. So think about your questions. Ben, anything you want to talk about before we open up to questions?
I think it's pretty thorough. And
Yeah,
again, if you guys get to the race, you have questions, most of our volunteers are pretty well versed on what's going on, especially if you come for early packet pickup on Friday. Um, we're setting up, but we can kind of just point you in the right direction so you can see everything. So
awesome. Cool. All right. Anyone have questions? Make sure people are allowed to. The chat is on, so you can put them in chat.
yeah, I've been monitoring that, but
Okay.
there hasn't been anybody.
And I'll just talk about how much I love this race.
Oh,
Like it's the perfect distance because nutrition isn't that big a deal. Like you gotta hydrate, you gotta fuel, but it's not gonna ruin your race like an Ironman or something.
we
Can you
won't
do
have the
warm up?
full buoys set up for Friday. You can definitely swim in the swim area, but we'll have just small like ski buoys out to mark the course in case things get hit um, by boats. So that's why we don't put out the full thing. So really, we don't let you swim the swim course until the morning.
Yeah. There's
Um,
like a beach area where you can kind of swim.
and it's long.
Yeah.
Bike
Uh
courses marked at the turns. We will have sheriffs at those turns as well as volunteers.
yeah.
You can ride the bike for sure. It may be later in the afternoon before we get it all set up. That's one of the last pieces we usually go out for.
Yeah,
Uh,
but it's well marked. Like every 2 miles there's a marker and then the turns are clearly marked and there'll be
yeah, the
volunteers.
turns are all turn ahead first, and then an actual physical shaped arrow showing you the left or right turn that you need to take. And this one is all left turns except for coming back into the park. Into the park is a right turn. Um, Canoes and kayaks are positioned inside the swimmers so we can get to you faster. It
Yeah.
keeps us inside the loop so we can move faster from one side to the other if we need to.
And
Um,
you're keeping the buoys on your left anyway, so like
yep,
you shouldn't run into them.
yep.
5 gallon bucket in transition, I don't think there's room for it.
If that was all you had, maybe, but
Yeah. Uh, I would recommend not having a bucket. Like, but I don't know. It maybe.
um,
uh
I think we've always had the relay people with their helmet ready to go. I don't think it's the swimmer does have to come into transition and hand off the chip. So, but I think you could have your helmet ready, and I don't
yeah.
think there's any rule against that.
No, yeah, it's not like, hey, I have to now go to transition. Like, yeah, you can be ready to rock and roll.
The
Uh
porta potties and restrooms are only going to be at transition, but since you're doing 2 laps, well, if you're doing the intermediate, you could hit it on the second lap. There's nothing on the bike.
yeah. Uh
Packet pickup on Friday is, I think,
one
1 to 6. I know
one to
it
six.
closes at 6.
Spectator guide. Um,
I
so
don't, that's a good idea. I don't
that's a
have
good
one of
idea.
those.
So my wife and kids have come many times, so I will refer to her experience. Triathlon is not the most exciting sport to watch. Um, as she tells me. But being by transition, there's lots of places to hang out by transition. Um, it will get hot for your spectators, and they will want camping chairs somewhere to sit. They might want some kind of shade. So if you have like a small shade tent, that might be good to consider. Um, if not, there's other like thing be below a tree or something. If you have small children that you're bringing, they will get very bored. So I would bring snacks and donuts and bubbles and chalk and other games for them to play. Um, and then it's just fun to cheer. So like you You cheer when everyone runs and by in transition and stuff. You can go down the swim. So it's small. There's a few hundred competitors. We're all friendly with each other. So like it's not like, oh, this isn't the Boston Marathon where I'm gonna miss out something if I don't plan correctly. Like you'll see everything. Um and you'll have fun. But like my suggestions would be like have make sure spectators have food and drink and an umbrella or something to just from the sun, and then somewhere to sit like a camping chair.
Yeah, there's really no way for you to get out on the bike and see them other than when they're coming in.
Yeah,
You might be able to go up part of the run course, but it's kind of narrow too. So
yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. We'll
see.
take a couple more questions. I see Patrick typing, so it's
Yeah.
going to be a good one.
Okay. uh
Yeah,
yeah.
transitions. There you go. JD, yeah, come on off mute. Yes, whatever question you want.
Sorry, I'll be the first one to come off mute. For the bike, you may have mentioned